Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to the Airborne Lawyer YouTube channel. This afternoon you find us back at Heathrow Airport. It's a fairly mild afternoon, albeit there are some winds around which are occasionally making it a little bit chilly, and it's also quite bright out here. There's a few aircraft movements here on VATSIM right now, but there aren't any VATSIM controllers, so we are just on Unicom and we're about to announce our intentions to push back, start the engines and head off to Barcelona. So here in the cockpit we've got everything set up, apart from the fact we were waiting for our performance data to come through on the FMGC, which we now have. So I'm just going to pop this into the perf page on the FMGC. So our takeoff trim is going to be down 0.41, so I'm going to put in DN 0.41. Actually just 0.4 will be fine, and we pop that in like that. Our V1 speed is going to be 155. Our rotate speed is going to be 155, and our V2 speed is going to be 156. Our flaps setting for takeoff will be flaps 1, and our flex temp is going to be 69. So we'll pop that in there. We will do a flex takeoff. That all looks correct. We're assuming a transition altitude today of 7,000 feet. So that is all done. I'm now going to put the flight plan onto the right-hand FMGC. We've got the perf page on the left-hand FMGC, and I'm going to call out the pushback truck. We've already got rid of the jetway, so I'm going to turn on the beacon. I'm also now going to turn on the APU. Just taking a quick look around the cockpit here, so everything is all set up. We've got our initial climb altitude up to 6,000 feet, which is standard for Heathrow. We've got the dot showing, so that's managed mode for both speed and heading. That means we're delegating that entirely to the FMGC once we engage autopilot. QNH is 1008. And we have our weather radar on, we've got predictive wind shear on, we've turned on the transponder, we don't need any of the lights on at this stage, and we are basically all set to go. So it's going to be nose left, tail right pushback. I will just announce that, having checked that there's nothing else coming, which there isn't. So switch over to Unicom. Heathrow traffic, Speedbird 472, stand 517, pushing back, will face south. Heathrow traffic. So the APU, right bang on time, has just come online, so that means I can disconnect ground power, which we'll do like that, take out the ground shocks, and I can now release the parking brakes, and away we go. So we're now pushing back, and actually, sorry, wrong button. I'm going to start the clock. And let's start engine number 2. Just make sure the APU bleed is on before I do that. Let's try that again. Yep, sounds like it's starting to fire up. That's all good. Everything else up here all looks as it should do. So the winds at Heathrow are variable at 2 knots, so it's actually not blowing too hard. I just checked the winds there. I think where I am, which is a little bit to the north of London, the winds are just a little bit sharper. but it's obviously fairly calm at the moment down at Heathrow. So yes, it's going to be a 27 left takeoff, and we are then flying a max-it departure. So after takeoff, turning left and heading south, and it's pretty much straight all the way down. We've just had the available indication come up on engine 2, which means we can start engine 1. So I'm going to start that one now. I'll set my parking brakes, and I'm going to assume that engine 1 is going to start just fine, so I'll confirm good engine start. I'm going to set auto brakes to maximum. I'm going to check my flight controls, so ailerons to the right, ailerons to the left, elevators down, elevators up, rudder to the right, and rudder to the left. Oh, that's good. And we know that we're going to need flaps set to 1, so I'll set those now. Having made those checks, I'm now just going to arm the speed brake for takeoff. The one last thing I need to do on my flight control surfaces is set the pitch trim to down 0.4, so I will just do that now. There we go. So engine 1 has now successfully started. I'm now going to turn off the APU bleed and turn off the APU, and I'm going to turn on the taxi lights as well.
Here's the traffic, Shark 15 taxiing to holding point November 4 Echo, runway 27 left.
I take it the man is still there. There he is. He's just giving us the wave on that side today. I'm just going to do the takeoff config check. Oil temperature is low. That's entirely standard. You don't need to worry about that. That will warm up by the time we get to the holding point for 27 left. Signs are on. I'll just flick those in case that reminds it that they're on, and we'll wait to hear from the cabin once we're ready for takeoff. So we're all good. I'm just going to press the pedal disc button and announce my taxi. Heathrow traffic, Speedbird 472, taxiing to holding point for runway 27 left via Alpha. Heathrow traffic. Saying that, I will just do a quick check when we're at the end of this bit of taxiway Alpha, just to see which way traffic is taxiing up and down, because we're on single runway operations. So if you've got landing traffic which has just come into runway 27 left, it's possible that they may be taxiing in the direction of Terminal 5 via Alpha, so we don't want to obviously have a heads-on collision. It needs to be I can turn left onto Bravo instead. Just going to pop the engine readouts on here just to make sure that that temperature picks up. So when you get the low engine temperature warning come up after start, that's normal. You're looking for the temperature on this screen down here to say 50 degrees or more, and it soon picks up, as one might imagine. Once you start the jet engine, things get quite hot.
17 Victor established 27 left, 12 miles.
Yeah, it looks all clear, so I'm going to continue on Alpha.
Here's the traffic, the Shark 715 taking off 27 left.
I always find the steering so sensitive on the Airbus when I've been flying bigger aircraft for a little while. This is my first outing in the Airbus for a few weeks. I do find it all comes back to me fairly quickly once I get in the cockpit, but you make a few basic errors inevitably. And of course, I guess that's true in the real world as well, and that's why during the COVID-19 pandemic you've had lots of pilots spending an awful lot of time in flight simulators keeping up their skills. So I note that the engines have now warmed up a bit, so I'm just going to rerun the takeoff config and just make sure that that's all okay. Yeah, that's normal. I didn't need to worry too much about signs and cabin sign-offs because we are, of course, just in a simulator. So quick look then at the route for this afternoon's flight to Barcelona. Pretty much straight down the spine of France. There's not much else to it. We're going to be going down the middle. So taking off then across the channel over towards kind of Dieppe area, and then straight down the middle. Over Limoges, over Brive, down into Spain. And certainly at the time of speaking, having looked at what the weather's doing in Barcelona.
Heathrow traffic, speedbird 502 Papa, lining up 27 left, 5 November Bravo 3.
Having checked the weather down in Barcelona, as things stand, we will be expecting to land on one of the 25s.
And this is traffic. This is Shamrock 715 is climbing out from the Compton 3 Golf departure, runway 27 left.
It's been a little while since I've traipsed all the way up to runway 27 left or right, because Heathrow has been operating on the 09s in the last few weeks, but obviously the winds have now changed. I think it's something like 3/4 of the time Heathrow takes off on the 27s and 1/4 of the time they take off on the 09s. Of course 09 is great for taking off when you're up at Terminal 5 because you're right up at the end there. But taxiing can be fun too.
Heathrow traffic, speedbird 17
Sort of.
Victor 27 left, 4.5 miles.
So the plan is to do a 2-sector flight today, flying down to Barcelona, turning the plane around, and then
Heathrow
flying
traffic,
back up.
speedbird 502, taking off runway 27 left, Coxby 2 Golf departure. Filtered traffic, Rhino 1648, reporting ground wind sight.
It's just going past Terminal 3. Well on our way down now. Terminal 4's over there. Of course, British Airways used to be based in Terminal 4 until Terminal 5 opened in, I think, 2008. Terminal 4 is a blessing and a curse. It's great, obviously, for taking off from 27 left. It's great if you land on 27 left and arriving into Terminal 4, but it is isolated the other side of runway 27 left, which means that whenever you go into Terminal 4 you do need to cross an active runway, and crossing an active runway in an airport as busy as Heathrow normally is no laughing matter at all. So when I believe when British Airways were based over in Terminal 4, they often suffered from bad delays because of, in part because of constantly having to cross an active runway to operate from the terminal.
Rhino 1648, requesting mic check.
Really 5x5.
5.
Okay. We're not too heavy today, so November Bravo 3 is fine for us. Heathrow traffic, speedbird 472 from November Bravo 3, lining up runway 27 left. So we'll just get all the lights on now. Wing lights, well, we don't need those on. Strobe lights, taxi lights to the takeoff setting. Get the clock started. It's not yet pulled off, has it? It looks to be all clear, so we're all right.
Traffic 27 left vacated.
Okay, we're all clear, so we can go. What I'm just going to do, once I've lined up, is hit the pedal disc button. Heathrow traffic, speedbird 472, taking off runway 27 left, max at 1 Golf departure, Heathrow traffic. There we go. V1 rotate.
Heathrow traffic channel 615 going up to 27 left, higher than the traffic.
Positive rate, gear up. Heathrow traffic, speedboat 472, airborne 300 feet, clear of runway 27 left. Copy, autopilot on. And we'll pull back to climb power.
Heathrow traffic channel 615, take off 27 left, and not 1 go for Heathrow traffic.
Turn off the taxi lights, reset the spoiler lever. Well, that was nice and easy. And away we go. Flaps 0. As there's no air traffic control on, I'm going to set our cruise altitude as well. And our cruise altitude, just remind myself, is flight level 330. I knew it was 320 or 330, couldn't quite remember. And I'm going to take it out of manage mode for a moment. There's Heathrow back there. I was just going to see if I could glimpse something of London, but we're just going into some very light cloud. It's just going to be over there somewhere. Probably slightly too far out. I think you can see, well, one of the Commons, is that Wandsworth Common, or yeah, something over there. But anyway, all a bit too far away to see in any clarity. So we're now through 6,000 feet. Once we're through 7,000 feet, we will switch to standard pressure. There we go, through 7,000 feet. So, and everything seems fairly calm, so I'm going to turn the seatbelt lights on as well. So now that we are airborne, we can have a look at our flight plan, and it's looking like we should grease the runway at Barcelona, 25 left is what we're planning on, at about 10 to 4 UTC. So we've got about an hour and 40 minutes in the air. So with that, I will say farewell for the moment, and I'm going to edit the video so we jump ahead to the point at which we're going to be on approach into Barcelona. I'll speak to you shortly. So welcome back to the flight down to Barcelona. We're still up at flight level 330 and we are now just 15 miles from top of descent. So in the distance there you can just see some hills and mountains. Where we actually are is pretty much just down near the French border with Spain. Just slightly south of Toulouse. We're still on track to be landing at around about 10 to 4 UTC, and we have about 148 miles left to run. So with 7 miles to go until top of descent, what I'm going to do is select flight level 100 on the autopilot. Just taking a look here, you can see that we are going to be descending down to about flight level 100 just before we reach the Charlie Lima Echo VOR beacon. So let's select that here, and once we pass the top of descent point, I'm going to put us into a managed mode descent. Also checked on the weather, and there's been no change in the winds, so we are looking to land on runway 25 left, and we'll be taxiing into Terminal 1 at Barcelona. We will be landing in a crosswind, not too... Here we go, here's the decelerate indication on the PFD, so I'm just going to hit manage mode down to 10,000 feet, and away we go. In fact, the first altitude constraint is flight level 110, which I saw on FMGC as well, actually, so I could have just set it to 11,000 instead. Yeah, we will be landing in a crosswind coming from the right, not too strong, 8 knots. And it's a nice mild day down here. It's 17 degrees. So I've put all of that into the FMGC in readiness for our approach. And right now we have the Pyrenees to enjoy as we start our descent. So we're just kind of between Carcassonne and Perpignan in France. Just taking a quick look at our plan for the approach. So we are going to be descending down to Charlie Lima Echo. Not completely sure which VOR that is. Then we're going to be taking a right-hand turn and flying a pattern which presumably is to manage traffic flow in this potentially busy bit of airspace. That being said, there are no controllers on VATSIM at the moment, and we also don't have much in the way of traffic showing on VATScope. So in all likelihood I'm going to look to shortcut this a little bit. As there's a little bit of cloud around and we're descending, I'm going to stick on the seatbelt sign. It's been a little while since I last flew to Barcelona on Flight Sim. Last time I flew down here I had just the default graphics in place, and there is no Terminal 1 in the default graphics. But the VATSIM controller who was managing ground traffic at Barcelona on that day told me to go to a gate in Terminal 1, and there was basically nothing there. It was a choice between parking on the grass or disobeying the controller's instructions, so that wasn't ideal. Of course, in practice I actually just asked permission to go to a different gate. But I'm pleased to say I now have some add-on scenery for Barcelona, so I'm looking forward to seeing what a much improved Barcelona looks like, and being able to park, how exciting is this, in Terminal 1 without ending up on the grass. It's a pity it's so cloudy. We should be getting some nice coastal views and some nice views of these mountains we're coming over at the moment, but such is life. It's unusual indeed to say that the weather in the UK may actually be better than it is down in Barcelona right now. It's been really great flying the Airbus A320 again, I must say. It's been a few weeks since I've done this. I mostly fly long haul just because it fits around everything else I've got going on in the day so much more easily. But it's been great getting out the A320. I honestly couldn't say which is my favourite aircraft from my add-on fleet. So I've got Quality Wing 787, PMDG 747 and 777, and I've got the Airbus A320. I think they're all fantastic. I often find, getting the A320 is like, no, this is my favourite. And then I'll get in the 777 and say, no, this is my ultimate favourite. So I really don't know. But it's great fun flying the Airbus. I'm still a relative newcomer to the Airbus fleet. I first invested in the Flight Sim Labs A320 family at the back end of 2019. So I haven't got anywhere near as many hours on the Airbus as I have on Boeing. But I do find it very logical, very straightforward to fly. It seems to click really well. I just enjoy it. Barcelona is quite an unusual airport by modern standards because it has a cross runway which can be used. I mean, it could be used on a day like today, I suppose, but as the wind is coming up from the south, you can't actually land on runway 20 as I understand it. You can only land on runway 02. But you've got the 25s and the 07s going east to west and west to east. And then you have runway 02, which comes up and cuts across, facing northeast. So I'd imagine, along with San Francisco, it's one of the few airports which still operates intersecting runways. Yeah, just taking a look at this. You can see lots of approaches for runway 02, but there's nothing here for runway 20, and that makes sense because you'd have to come right over the city. It'd be quite difficult to approach from the north. So I assume bit like runway 18 at Frankfurt is for takeoffs only. I assume that runway 02 is the only way you can land. You can't land on runway 20. Also just taking a look here at what we do in the event of a missed approach, so I'm just going to pull this up and take a look at the plan. In the event of a missed approach, we're going to go pretty much straight ahead, climbing up to 3,000 feet and then turning left out over the Mediterranean. Shouldn't happen, all being well, we should be fine. There's not much traffic around, so we shouldn't have any issues with the approach this afternoon. But always worth planning. I always find if I don't plan for a missed approach, that is when it's going to happen. And it's just a frantic scrabble with going around. It's this frantic scrabble when you're on your own, you're the only pilot. There's a hell of a lot to do in such a short space of time. It is perhaps my weakest manoeuvre as a virtual pilot is executing a go-around. In an airline, it's fine if you're in like a Cessna or something, I guess, but in an airline it is really tricky because you've got to get all your everything coordinated. You're trying to sort of click lots of buttons on the autopilot, and you've also got to just maintain control and follow a procedure. It's always one to practice. My own trick, in case it helps on go-arounds, is to have a sort of a rigid series of shortcut keys, and to just remember the order I need to hit those shortcut keys in to get it right. I actually find go-arounds fairly straightforward in the Airbus. It's just throttle right up to the top, up to toga, flaps to 2, gear up, and once the plane is climbing away, basically re-engage the autopilot and make sure that the autopilot is in control, because trying to get yourself lined up back again for an approach and fly the plane manually is, well, for me it's just impossible. I just can't do it. I'm just going to take us out of manage mode at this point and continue the descent, because I quite like to get a shortcut in here if we can. Just going to slide the plane down to 250 knots. We're about on 10,000 feet, so I'm going to turn on the landing gear and turn on the taxi lights. Seatbelt signs are already on. So you can't see it because of this overcast cloud layer, but the airport is just over there somewhere. Let's continue the descent down. We'll just go down to 8,000 feet, see where that gets us. So just again looking at the flight plan. Ideally we want to be at 2,300 by Sotil, which is just here. So let's take us down now actually to about 4,000 feet and keep that descent going with a view to then shortcutting down here over to Sotil. Just hit LS over here. That will give me my localizer and glide slope display on the primary flight display. In fact, I'm going to take it down to 3,000. I'm now just going to start losing some speed as well. So speed brakes out again. And I think we're doing alright in terms of losing altitude, so I'm now just going to put in a direct to Sotil. And yeah, that looks like we're going to level off at 3,000 feet just ahead of Sotil. So as things stand, we're in quite good shape here. And I'm also going to activate the approach phase at this point. And stick it back into managed mode on speed. What that means on activating approach phase and going to managed mode on speed, it's going to take me back to green dot, which is around about 210 knots. That's my minimum clean. I have to say, I find green dot speed quite confusing. I often forget what it's actually showing me. But yeah, I believe that when you're in approach phase, green dot speed will be your minimum clean. So we're starting to slow up quite nicely at this point. So there is another aircraft which is making its way to Barcelona, but that aircraft is currently over Turin in Italy, so we don't need to worry too much there. There are also a couple of departures, both of which I think are still currently on the ground. So, no, in fact, both of those departures have already left Barcelona. So it is very quiet at Barcelona this afternoon. We have the airport pretty much all to ourselves. So we've just gone through transition altitude. I'm just going to go to local pressure, which is 1005. Okay, QNH has dropped fractionally since I did the perf data for landing, but that's fine, we can live with that. So there is Barcelona. Still can't quite see the airport just yet, but that will be coming into view very, very shortly, just behind this cloud, I expect. There we go, what's down there? You can see the port, and yeah, I think that's the airport just beyond it. And we are landing on runway 25 left. Going to put out flaps 1 at this point. Again, in managed mode on the approach phase, that means we'll now pull back the speed to roughly 190 knots. I'm happy with our descent profile here, so I can see on the primary flight display that we are just, well, pretty much on the glide slope as it is anyway. And I'm now going to engage approach mode to lock onto the localizer as it comes across, which it is doing right away, which is pretty good. So I can see the airport in sight now. I can make out what must be 25 right and 25 left. Got 9 miles to go, so I'm going to start losing a bit more speed again now by putting out some more flaps. VREF of 139 knots this afternoon.
$2,500.
Barcelona traffic, speedbird 472, fully established, ILS 25 left, 7 miles. Barcelona traffic. From what I can tell, there's no one on the ground at Barcelona, so no one needs to hear that, perhaps, but it's always safest to do it. More flaps. We're now at 2,000 feet. I'm going to pop the landing gear down. I'm just going to set auto brakes to low, because with no other traffic to trouble us, I'm quite happy to pretty much roll to vacate. We want to make our way to Terminal 1, which is the large building we can see in the middle between runways 25 left and 25 right. So it suits me to make the most of the speed that we'll have when we touch down. We'll have our armed spoilers. Flaps out a bit more. So that is now flaps full. Landing gear down. Cabin signs are on. Spoilers are armed, we've set auto brakes, so I'm now going to take control of the aircraft, switch off the autopilots. I have control.
$1,000.
Just following the flight directors on the PFD. Pretty much, yeah, nicely on the glide slope here. Just slightly below for a little while there, but nothing too serious. Got the 2 reds, 2 whites on the pappies, which is always nice to see. Barcelona traffic, speedbird 472. Now short final, ILS 25 left, speedbird 472.
500.
Feeling a little bit of wind there from the left hand side, as expected. Wind still 190 at 8.
Minimum.
Continue.
100. 50. 30. 20. Retard.
Okay, manual braking, and we'll exit here. Turn on the pedal disc button, and here we go. Okay, 204 sounds good. Barcelona traffic, Speedbird 472 has vacated runway 25 left, Barcelona traffic. So I'll turn off the landing lights, turn off the strobes, and we can dim the taxi lights a little bit. Let's get the APU on as well. There we go. Let's see if there's a gate a little bit close to where we are. Try gate 266. There we go. It's right next to us. So the APU is coming online, which is good. There we are. Okay. Parking brakes on. Engines off. APU bleed on. And here we are. Welcome to Barcelona. Yeah, I'm happy with that parking. That looks good. We can bring in the flaps, bring in the spoilers, and let's get the jetway out as well. So very happy with that flight. That was a nice little trip down to Spain. We can now commence deboarding. We'll refuel, then we'll get the next load of people and cargo on board, and then we'll head back up to London Heathrow. Welcome back to Barcelona and to what is now this evening's flight back to London Heathrow here on the Airborne Lawyer YouTube channel. So we have been sat here at the gate for a few hours now. We've seen the afternoon turn into the evening and turn into the night now, and all the lights have come on. We've seen a few aircraft come and go, and both in real life and in the simulated version, I suppose, we'll have had something to eat and refreshed before the flight back to London. Tonight we're going to be taking off on runway 25 left, so the same runway that we landed on, which is just over here. So fairly straightforward taxi out in just a few moments' time. We have got everyone boarded, and we have got everything programmed into the FMGC other than our performance data for takeoff. We've got the weather, no real change from the weather that was than the weather we flew into when we landed here a few hours ago, and everything is basically all set to go. We're just waiting now for our final load sheet so that we can put in our AOC performance request. But we don't need to wait for that to push back, so we're going to go ahead and do that right away. So first of all we're going to get rid of the jetway. And then I'm going to go ahead and request the pushback tag. I'm going to turn on the beacon. And just whilst the pushback tug is getting into place, I'm going to have a look around and see if anyone else is likely to using the taxiway, which they are. I will still announce my intentions on Unicom, but it looks like I'm all cleared to push and start as and when we are connected up at the nose wheel. So again, not a long flight back this evening, should just be about an hour and a half, and I will time-lapse it as I did on the way down. So tonight we're going to go nose right and tail left, and we'll release the parking brakes. Here we go. Farewell to Barcelona. So let's start engine 2. We'll also start the clock. And I should announce what I'm doing on Unicom, so I'll do that now. Barcelona traffic speedbird 471, pushing back, stand 206, facing east. I think we were at stand 206. I might have got that wrong. Okay, so engine number 2 is now available, so I'm going to turn on engine number 1. I'll set the parking brakes, and I'm going to go ahead and confirm good engine start. Honestly, I can't remember our stand number. It was as I went to say it that I realised I couldn't remember what it was. I think it was 206 or 266, something like that. It's been quite a long evening, what can I say? Engine 1 is spooling up nicely. I'm going to go ahead and check the flight controls. So, ailerons right and left. Elevator down and up. Now that they've disconnected the tow truck, I will check my rudder. Just need to turn off the pedal. Disconnect. There we go. One last thing is to test the speed brakes. They look good. Okay. He's given us the wave. I'm just going to turn off the dome lights. Turn on the taxi lights. Put the strobe also to automatic. And away we go. Right, let's just give it a little bit of power to get us moving. And what I'm just waiting for here is to see a company message pop up, and there it is. Oh, perfect timing. So I just wanted our load sheet, because for my performance data request I've just got to put in the takeoff weight, which reads 67.5, and the estimated MACTO. So the estimated MACTO is 30.2. I can then send that off. I'll stick the flight plan in there, and I'm now going to wait the takeoff data. So I'm going to turn right down here. You'll notice that the takeoff configuration steps have come up here. So what I'm just going to do is get the things that I can get done now done. So spoilers are now armed. Cabin signs are now on. And that's about it. Actually, I'll put auto brakes onto maximum. There we go, I can do that as well. You can also turn off the APU, so let's do that. So again, I've got company message coming up here, so that suggests that I've got my performance data now. I'm just going to announce that I'm crossing runway 02. Barcelona traffic, speedbird 471, crossing runway 02, Barcelona traffic. So this is the cross runway we were talking about earlier on. So you can land on 02, but it doesn't look like you can land on 20. Okay. Barcelona traffic, speedbird 471 is now clear of runway 02. Taxiing to the holding point for 25 left. Okay, so let's tap in the performance data then. Okay, that is all correct. So our takeoff stabilizer trim is down 0.37. I'm going to put down 0.4 and round it up. V1 a bit lower than when we left Heathrow, it's 140. Rotate is 143, and V2 is 146. And our flap setting is a little bit higher as well, so that's flaps 3. And we will again do a flex takeoff at 66 degrees. So now get ready for takeoff with flight plan on the right hand side and perf on the left hand side. So we can now set flaps to 3. And I'm going to adjust our stabilizer trim to down 0.4. It's quite a small number, that, but it's just in the centre there. There we go, so it is on down 0.4. Signs are on, the cabin's ready. And I'm straying a little bit from the green line there, but no worries. We can take this one here. just do a quick check on that scope to see if there's anything coming, which I can't see. There isn't. Barcelona traffic speed of 471, lining up runway 25 left. So, takeoff configuration is normal. So, we're all set to go. Landing lights can go on. Strobes can go on. Oh, wing lights were already on. Whoops. There we go. And we'll put the nose light to the takeoff setting. Now turn off the pedal disc button. And we can start the clock. Away we go. Barcelona traffic speed of 471, taking off 25 left. Barcelona traffic. Power is stable. Takeoff power is set. Eight knots. B1, rotate. Positive rate, gear up. Autopilot on. Autopilot clearly in command as well. Barcelona traffic speed of 471, 700 feet, airborne and clear of runway 25 left. Barcelona traffic. And we'll fall back to climb power. Flaps 2. Just going to turn off the taxi lights, we don't need those. And going to disarm the ground spoilers. Flaps 1. And flaps 0. Okay. Well, there are the lights of Barcelona behind us. We should get a better view of that in a moment because we're going to be turning to the right. Although it's then going to get obscured by cloud again, isn't it? There we go. Just see a bit of the airport there and the city just behind it. Okay, just through transitions, I'm going to now switch to standard pressure on the altimeters. And I love this, by the way. I love how on the Airbus the clouds pick up the landing lights. It's flickery, but it's great. I really like it. Until next time, I'm sure I'll be back in Barcelona before too long. It's a good route to do from Heathrow. So let's take a quick look then at the flight plan on here. We are looking at arriving into Heathrow at 22:01 UTC. So just as we had on the way up, around about 1 hour and 40 minutes in the air. You can also just take a quick look at the map. All fairly straightforward. Although we are tracking a little bit to the left of the route we took on the way down here. We are expecting to approach Heathrow via the Roxog 1 Hotel arrival, and we will take a look at that a little bit later on in the flight. But for now, once again, I'm going to time-lapse it and let you sit back, relax, and enjoy a very rapid cruise, and I will speak to you at the other end when we're on descent into Heathrow. Good evening and welcome back to the flight. We are now 1 hour and 20 minutes into the flight. It's an hour and 29 minutes since we pushed back from the gate in Barcelona. And you find us now 34 miles north of Jersey and 114 miles southwest of Heathrow. And we are just 14 miles now away from our top of descent. If you look over on the right hand side of the cockpit here in this map screen, you can see a good outline of where we are in the English Channel. So not far to go at all. Last time I checked, there were no controllers online on VATSIM. It is now getting quite late in the UK, so that's to be expected. But there are still a fair number of planes in the sky, so we will be using Unicom as we descend. Just looking at our route in. So we're flying the Roxog 1 Hotel arrival. So this takes us in via Ockham, and we will be descending down to flight level 130 by Hazel, and then expecting to go down to about flight level 70 by the time we get to the Ockham VOR. Since we departed Heathrow earlier this afternoon, we have had a change in the winds. So the winds are now blowing at 080 degrees at 10 knots. So we're back on the 09s rather than the 27s, which we took off on. And we are going to be landing on 09 left. So taking a quick look at the instrument approach chart for ILS 09 left. This is now looking quite familiar. I've used this chart a few times in recent flights into Heathrow, and the minimums for this aircraft are 243 feet. And the missed approach procedure is straight ahead to 3000 and then a left turn thereafter. Back in the cockpit, quickly coming back here, we've just had the decelerate indication up on the PFD, so I'm going to put us into a managed mode descent down to flight level 130, and we'll get there by Hazel, which is about 3 or 4 waypoints away from us. You can just see it on the map here. So just checking that we have our approach and runway all programmed into the FMGC, which we do. Just looking ahead also at the performance pages here in the FMGC. I've put in our destination weather data, so QNH is 1006, it's 10 degrees, there's the winds, as I say, 080 at 10 degrees, and we will change that transition altitude. I'm going to assume that's going to be 7,000 feet. Our approach speed tonight is going to be 137 knots, and I've also put in over here our Barrow minimums of 243 feet. So now in a nice steady descent, approaching Roxog now, so we're just a couple of miles from Roxog, the beginning of the star, and we are slowly losing speed down to around about 270 knots. Nice economical descent this. Our thrust levers are at idle. So we're just putting Sir Isaac Newton in the driving seat, as they say, and letting gravity do the rest. I don't plan at this point to put out the speed brakes. We are descending on profile, but I will keep an eye on that if the speed does pick up. I'm going to put the seatbelts on. See if we can see anything off the nose of the aircraft. We can't at the moment. This route brings us right over the top of the Isle of Wight and right alongside Portsmouth and Southampton, which we might get a decent view of on the left-hand side. If the traffic remains very quiet around Heathrow, it certainly seems to be quiet at the moment, it's likely I'm going to do a shortcut. We might not go all the way to Ockham. I might take a shortcut. I'm just having a look at the arrivals going into Heathrow. There's only 5 arrivals coming in at this point, and yeah, almost all of them are further away from the airport than I am. We have a flight coming in from Zurich, which is currently making its way in via Biggin. But as we're landing on the 09 left, we will be in a better position, I think, to shortcut the runway than he will be coming in from the southeast. So I'll keep an eye on that. But what I'm thinking is, just having a look at the map, I am actually wondering about whether we cut from Hazel straight over to 09 left. Though I was saying a few moments ago about checking that I got the star and the runway all programmed in, and I was forgetting that we've switched over to 9 left. So let's put that in now. ILS 9 left and Roxog 1 Hotel. Now that's confused things slightly, so let's just clean up the FMGC here. And we are going to go direct to Begto. There we go, that's got it. Yeah, what I'm thinking is I could just cut straight from Hazel up to what is in effect our base leg. So we'll do that in a few moments' time. So we're now just 13.5 miles southwest of Hazel. I'm just going to apply a little bit of speed brake now, just to keep that speed under close control. So we are going to have to make a fairly swift descent from Hazel if we're going to miss out on going via Ockham. So obviously we've got some extra distance to cover there, which gives us extra time to descend, which we're going to lose out on if we take a shortcut. So I can help to mitigate the effects of that by just managing the speed carefully and keeping that descent going. I'm going to stick on the wing lights now. Okay, speed brakes can come in. just keep that, let's keep that descent profile going. And we are now turning towards Ockham, but what I'm going to do is do a direct to GWC 35. Let's do that. And now I'm really going to slow us up. Speed brakes fully extended at this point. And we're going to descend all the way down to 3,000. That's the point I'd like to be at, turning onto final approach, which is what we're going to do. When we get to the end of this line here and turn right, we're then going to be onto our final approach. Now we really do need to keep this this descent rate up, so I'm actually going to now stick it into vertical speed mode and just directly enter what we want there. So let's keep that descent rate going down nicely. What I'm looking for here is this little blue line. I actually find the indication on the Boeing aircraft much clearer on this, because then you get this much broader green line which shows you where you're going to level off. But it's this smaller blue line here. That is where I'm going to meet 3,000 feet. Now, just before I increase the descent rate down to minus 2,000 feet a minute, that blue line was sort of over here somewhere, which would mean that I would not be on the glide slope. I'd be very, very high coming in for final approach. So I've increased the rate of descent. I think we should now be okay. I'll just take a look. It might actually give me my altitude constraints here. Yeah, there we go. So basically between GWC 35 and whatever the next one is, we need to be between 3,500 and 2,500. So that is perfect. 3,000 will be just right. One thing I've just got to watch out for though is of course the speed, because I'm now going down quite steeply and my speed has jumped forward, so I put the speed brakes out again. And what I'm actually going to do as well, let's turn on the landing lights. I was going to say there for a moment, what I was thinking is I was actually going to put it into the approach phase. I will do that shortly, but I'm just a bit concerned about the descent profile. I think if I put it into approach phase at this stage, we're going to level off on the descent and we'll be coming in then too steep. So let's just keep the descent going for the moment, and I'll deal with slowing up once we're a bit lower. Okay, so now through transition altitude. QNH is 1006. We are going quite fast here. So there is Heathrow just over there. Just going to slow things up a little bit by turning directly to the north. Just now give myself a little bit of extra time. So if we get this speed down. So you can see the runway lights flashing over there now quite clearly. And I'm now a bit more relaxed because we are now a little bit underneath the glide slope. So I'm just going to now start decreasing the rate of descent. And with that we should also see the speed coming off. I'm also now going to activate the approach phase. And we should now start slowing up quite rapidly. Turn to an intercept heading now. And watch for the localizer to come across. Still got the speed brakes fully out. Actually slamming on the brakes at this point. I just missed the localizer actually, but we'll be able to intercept it again. In fact, we've just given ourselves a little bit of extra track to slow up. So we're now at green dot, flaps 1, speed brakes are in and now armed, and I'll put auto brakes on low, and this is now starting to shape up a little bit more. So a slightly unconventional approach, this one. It all started to happen quite quickly after Hazel, but I think we've managed to recover it okay. And I will report my intentions just as soon as we have intercepted the localizer, which is going to happen in just a few seconds' time, I think.
2,500.
Here we go. Bit more flap. So flaps 3. Sorry, flaps 2 that is. And I'm now going to lower the landing gear. Flaps 3 now. Heathrow traffic, Speedbird 471, fully established, ILS 09 left. 5 miles, Heathrow traffic. And flaps full. Cabin signs are on. Landing gear is down. Cabin is ready. Spoilers are armed. So this is all looking very nice. Let's turn off the autopilot. I'll take control of the plane. Okay, I have control.
$1,000.
Just the usual thing, following the flight directors, checking the PAPI lights, checking the runway. Just cross-checking occasionally with the localizer and the glide slope indicator on the PFD. So far it's all looking good. I don't know about you, but I find it so satisfying when you get the 2 red, 2 white on the PAPI lights. It just, it's just the icing on the cake.
500.
Nice steady headwind straight down the runway, blowing at 090 at 10 degrees at the moment, so that's making things even easier.
$100. 50. 30. 20. Retard.
Going traffic, shuttle 170, fully established, 08 right.
Okay, brakes to manual. Bring in the spoilers. And flaps to 0. Heathrow traffic, speedbird 471 has vacated runway 09 left, Heathrow traffic. Landing lights off. Strobes off. Runway turn off lights off. And we'll take Alpha. Got a pretty decent taxi light on here. That's because I've still got it on the takeoff setting, so we can turn that down a bit. There we are. And we'll get the APU on as well. And turn off the wing lights. Yes, that was all fairly quick after Hazel. 1 hour 45 minutes. We managed to shave a fair bit of time off the flight by taking that shortcut, but it did make it quite frantic on approach. But it was fine. It was fine. We managed to sort it out. I think it made a difference, just turning up to 360 degrees just before we turned on to final. It just gave us a critical extra bit of distance just to slow up and get down to 3,000 feet, which is where I wanted to be to commence my final approach. But like I've said before, every flight is different. That is for me one of the greatest things about Flight Simulator. No 2 flights are the same. The challenge here is constant. You're always doing something different. So let's find ourselves a gate. Oh, no, that's the wrong menu. Let's have another go. 511. 511 sound good? 511. Let's go for that. Okay, the APU is now available. Let's turn on the APU bleed. So hour 45 in the air, hour 56 since we pushed back. It's going to be about 2 hours gate to gate. So if this were Ryanair, we'd be playing a little trumpet sound at this point and declaring another on-time arrival. Okay, let's just slow ourselves up here because we're herring along taxiway Alpha, but why not? We've got places to be. Still quite busy, isn't it? So these are the domestic gates just over here at the end of Terminal 5, and then you've got the European ones from, I don't know, possibly 508 onwards, something like that. Here we are, 511. So I hope you've enjoyed today's return flight down to Barcelona. If you have, please of course hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, and look out for further videos that I'll be putting up on the channel, both short and long haul flying, both on Prepare 3D and also on Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. If you've seen anything that I've done wrong, let me know. I'm always interested to learn. That's how I've got this far with my flight simming. So let me know if there's something I could be doing better. And if you've just enjoyed the video and would like to see more, then please comment as well, because that's always good to hear. That seems like far enough to me. I'm not sure this is working, given we've got a minus 203.6 meter reading. That doesn't sound too encouraging to me. So here we are. Let's turn off the engines. Engine 2, engine 1. Beacon off. Seatbelt signs off. Let's call out the jetway. So yeah, please do hit subscribe, please do click like if you've enjoyed watching this video. Look out for further videos very soon on the Airborne Lawyer YouTube channel. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.